Hello, I'm Tina McDuffie, host of the Local USA series here on World Channel. You just watched 2 films on gun violence. You saw how gun violence impacts families and entire communities. These were 2 cities in the United States, but according to the Gun Violence Archive, there were more than 44,000 gun-related deaths in the country in 2021. Families often feel hopeless from the trauma. So we wanted to have a conversation with people who are doing the work to create a path towards healing, support, and forgiveness. Let's look at a clip from one of those films. It's called When the Waters Get Deep.
Can y'all make some noise for Soul Development?
Y'all ready to light it up for real? Let's go.
Music has always been a part of my equation of surviving, of not losing my voice. And Soul Development, they were there to help lift my heaviest pain when I lost my brother to gun violence.
How many of us have come through darkness to be at this light today? Put your hands up.
I was hurting so badly from the perversion of retaliation.
In spite of the level of pain we felt, we had to declare revenge belongs to the Creator.
As we're saying the names of our loved ones lost, that's how you bring them forth.
They're urging us to lean into the love and survive them in a way that is so divine. We're trying to become better versions of ourselves and do that same work in our communities.
I no longer could withhold the observation of living the Black experience. We understand the helicopters, we understand police brutality, but we also understand greater our light within.
For us to take back our own stories and to heal ourselves and those around us.
I was broken, but I'm putting the pieces back together, and I am gonna be all right.
They taught us how to fight different and how to love different. And I have so much gratitude for you opening up everything that you have to us.
Y'all been holding us good.
Our hope, our fight, our love, our endurance, it is inside of us. Let not pain be the end of your story.
It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists and get right into our conversation. Brittany Tanner is a member of the Emmy Award-winning Soul Development, a hip-hop soul jazz ensemble, and a founding artist of the collective Be Imaginative. Soul Development appears in the movie When the Waters Get Deep that you just saw the trailer for. Brittany lost her brother to gun violence just as the film was being completed. Terrance Pitts is a lawyer and advocate for criminal justice reform and a nonfiction filmmaker. His growing interest in filmmaking landed him a fellowship with the Firelight Media Documentary Lab, which helped him develop Heaven, Can You Hear Me? That's a short documentary film that tells the story of a group of Philadelphia mothers dealing with the aftermath of gun violence. We're going to see a clip of that film shortly. And Ruth Rollins is a domestic violence advocate and community leader. She's a co-founder for Operation Lipstick, and that stands for Ladies Involved in Putting a Stop to Inner City Killing, and is nationally recognized as a leader in addressing gun violence and community violence. Ruth's personal and professional experience, her spiritual beliefs, and her deep connection in the community have made her a powerful force for peace. Thank you to all of you for joining us. We really, really appreciate your time. Brittany, I want to start with you because we did see a clip of When the Waters Get Deep, and you lost your brother before that film was wrapped up. Talk to us about that experience in terms of losing your brother and then moving forward in that loss.
So interesting. The day my brother lost his life, my sister Lauren Adams was here with me. I was braiding her hair, and we got the call that he had been shot in Baltimore. So it was a lot. It was a lot. It was heavy. And like I said, had it not been for Soul Development and the things that we were already doing, we had been already filming the When the Waters Get Deep. So this is a year of me being in spaces where I have to show up and I have to speak, because there are women and mothers, strong, beautiful Black women who are telling their stories and telling how they lost their sons to gun violence, and being extremely brave and claiming, what it is that they needed, which was to tell their story. And I couldn't not be in those spaces and share too. I had lost my uncle to gun violence when I was 15, went to school the next day and literally was hospitalized because of the trauma. Like, I had no business going to school, but I believe in Black families, sometimes you don't know what the protocol is. You don't know how to take care of a loved one. We don't know how, our ancestors practiced rituals and did things surrounding grief and preparing you for that. And so I had never spoke about that to anyone until I was in a Be Imaginative circle. So it really taught me how to share the grief, to start talking about, to start the conversation. Not that it was, I'm rid of the pain. The pain will always be there, but I'm learning to live with it, and I'm learning to love in the pain.
Moving forward, after something traumatic happens to you, what would you say to someone who is experiencing that? Because ultimately, when we think about losing a loved one, there is a feeling of hopelessness.
Be in community, allow community to love on you, allow community to cook you those meals and give you a break with the baby when you need that, to hug on you, to love on you, to pray for you. I believe that the community is what rooted me and allowed me to not seek violence or not seek revenge or not seek or be depressed about it. But I really had like a list of things that I needed to do to heal. I had to show up. I had to be around community. I had to talk to folks. I had to cry when I needed to cry. I had to let that out. Sometimes I would be in the shower and just crying. And some days look like crying, some days look like laughing and remembering our loved ones and, talking about their memory, keeping their memory alive.
And Ruth, as you're listening to this, I'm hearing community, and I'm hearing creating spaces where you can, really work through your grief. And so that's part of the work that you're doing. So talk to us about that.
I lost my son, Warren Daniel Hairston, 15 years ago, still to an unsolved homicide, and I went through several stages of grief, isolation, depression, but I also, I said I'd leave with my mother's heart because I still, had compassion. I still wanted to know how these guns were ending up in our community. And that's when I gave birth to We Are Better Together Warren Daniel Hairston Project. It's named after my son. And it's a way to, honor his legacy, but it's also an opportunity for me to heal as well. So the work that we do, we lead with accountability. And when we say accountability, we do a lot of healing circles. We do restorative justice. But we also lead with compassion because we believe what we do to one side, we have to do to another to interrupt our cycle of violence in our community. So a lot of the work we do is trauma informed. We meet people where they are. Unfortunately, in 2016, when I came out and told my story, it wasn't the norm to be a mother that had 2 children that were impacted by gun violence. But unfortunately, now in 2022, I would say 80% of our community are impacted directly or indirectly due to homicide or incarceration. So we really got creative in regards to healing spaces, court advocacy, trauma-informed workshops, supporting a lot of the caregivers that are currently taking care of their grandchildren due to their loved one being murdered or being incarcerated.
When we talk about generational trauma, and we hear phrases like that all the time, what does that look like?
A lot of the things that we've been through or even currently going through are things that have happened in our family. I grew up in a space that my mother, we could have been caught dead wrong. And she would say, not my child, not my child. So when my child was causing some of the harm in the community and was going through things, it was like, not my child, not my child. It wasn't until I knew better that I can do better. And it doesn't mean that we're bad parents or we're bad. It's just like, a lot of things that we went through, have gone through in our family, we tend to pass it down to the next generation. There's so much stigma and taboo in our Black and brown community that we don't talk about it, but the way that we address it is looking at our ancestors, looking at our mothers and our grandmothers. I used to hate when my mother said I did the best that I could do. And it was true. you know, what given to our children, what was given to us. It's not until we're in non-judgment space, it's not until we're in healing space that we get to unpack that and take accountability and then start healing. This is before we lose children.
I come from a family of stoic women who, you know, things happen and like Ruth said, you know, you don't talk about it and it's never brought up in the family. Being able to have a reference like things like this film and When the Waters Get Deep, I think it's amazing that people can have a reference and then maybe start to ask those questions of, you know, where can I find a space like that? And then the questions start and, you know, you manifest spaces like this.
Terrance, I want to bring you in here because you, as the filmmaker of Heaven, Can You Hear Me? I mean, just translated, you know, many of the things that we're talking about right now and then some. Let's take a look at a clip from Heaven, Can You Hear Me?
Gun violence in Philadelphia is the #1 leading cause of death for African-American men aged 14 to 24. #1.
When you lose a child, you know, it takes a half of you away.
Each of these women has lost a child to gun violence.
Because there's so much pain and grief and loss. And we're paying for that in ways that is unbelievable.
For him, this was a major accomplishment. This was a good day.
The anger that I have, I will never get rid of.
Don't ever feel like you're alone, because you're not alone. We're here to be with you, stand by you.
Through sisterhood and activism, they are healing and fighting back.
Someone who's had that experience that can tell them that they will live, that they will survive through it.
If I didn't keep myself surrounded with positive people and the mothers here, I don't know how I would have made it.
Heaven, Can You Hear Me? On Local USA.
My true desire is that this film will help other people heal. It will help other people talk about their grief and trauma, and it will help create awareness of the need to invest more resources in our communities, in Black and Brown communities, for violence intervention, prevention, and trauma services. In 2015, I was filming a basketball tournament in my neighborhood in Brooklyn. I live in Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn. Off the court, a shooting took place. 4 young men were shot. And we all rushed to the scene where the shooting took place. 1 young man was dying and literally expired in front of me. I was grief-stricken. I was angry, I was sad. I had all these emotions running through me and I didn't know what to do with them. At the same time, I was learning filmmaking. I was taking classes. I was trying to use my creative spirit for good. And I decided I wanted to use filmmaking as a tool to dig deeper, to investigate gun violence. Why are Black and Brown folks, why are we dying at the rates we are through violence, through community violence? And in doing that, I was at a conference about gun violence prevention. I heard about the shooting death of Alex Cherry, who's Christina's son, who's a character in my film. And I met Christina, talked to her, and she was willing to share her story. She found community in knowing that she was not alone. And that helped her to heal. So I think, where's the hope? The hope is exactly what Brittany said it is. It's in community and us supporting one another, us holding each other up when we're down, allowing people to cry on our shoulders, just being there to support.
We have to, as a community, nobody's coming to save us, by us, for us. It's up to us to create community, trauma-informed services, spaces that allow us to support each other that are going through this gun violence.
A lot of Black people don't know how to communicate it. We don't know what to say. We don't know how to sit in a room and have these difficult conversations, and it comes out. It's still love. It's still all love, but it just comes out in a lot of different forms. And like I said, I'm just grateful that I've been in spaces to kind of guide me through my process, and I have community that is still guiding me to this day.
We are going to watch another clip from the movie When the Waters Get Deep.
Our society has this idea around gun violence when it's concerning Black lives.
Breaking news, police are at the scene of a homicide in Oakland.
We get invisibilized, otherized so quick. And people begin to produce stories or iterations. Was it peer association? Was the music up too loud? Were they in the wrong neighborhood? The humanity is removed so quickly.
Our greatest act of resistance is not standing on freeways. We can do that. It's not shutting the city down. We can do that too. But our greatest act of resistance is to remember that we are radically interconnected to one another, that we are our brother, sister, and relatives' keeper.
I wanted to give you an opportunity to give some final thoughts here. Terrance, we'll start with you.
One of the endemic problems is an underinvestment in resources in Black and Brown communities. We put tons of resources in law enforcement. Some cities' budgets are over 50% allocated to the police force or law enforcement. Let's think about reimagining how those funds are invested in our communities to address systemic racism and chronic, generations of underinvestment. And that is part of the solution.
And Brittany, final thoughts. There are people who are watching who are really holding on to every word that you're saying. So what would you say to those folks?
I believe that us telling our story and continuing to tell our story, that is what encourages people, and that in itself creates a safe space. The fact that I can come on here and speak about my brother who was lost to gun violence, and I can say his name, Demetrius Tanner, and I can continue to say his name and speak about him, it's going to encourage someone else to speak about their loved one. And once you begin to speak about it, you begin to tell your story, you attract yourself to like-minded people, and those healers are going to come your way. Those mothers are going to come your way. Mama Ruth, I am so grateful for you and all that you are doing. Brother Terrance, I'm so grateful for y'all. Just continuing to tell this story and giving a space for people. You are the reason that healing can continue. And Mama Ruth, it's women like you that were in those healing circles that I was in that made me feel comfortable enough to say, oh, I lost my uncle. I had no idea I was still carrying that trauma. And that's generational healing. So now when my son grows up, he's gonna know that his mommy is calling out his uncle's name and that I'm healing. And it's gonna be easy for him to do that. And hopefully I don't pass down the generational trauma. So I believe that we can continue the narrative of generational healing and continue to tell Black people's story and create safe spaces for us to honor our ancestors and cultivate a practice of care and learn to love in the grief and learn to heal from the pain and turn that pain into medicine.
Creating spaces, like, whatever it may be. I know, like, after when you first lose a child, and no matter how many years it may be, try to find a purpose, whatever that purpose may be, doing something to honor your loved one, your grandchildren, finding something to get out of the bed, just to move forward, just to show up, to continue, and finding spaces, unapologetic spaces that you're able to bring your whole truth into the space. Because I believe pain shared, pain lessened. And I agree with Terrance. There's so much in the community, and there's so many powerful sisters, young sisters and people that are losing their loved ones. We have to create opportunity for funding and resources that we can uplift them, because we are the change we seek in our community. We know what we need, and there is no limit on grief. We all grieve. It's just how we grieve and how do we move forward. So I just say, just hold on, and try to find somebody or a group that can support you through your grief.
Thank you to all of our panelists for this really, really heartfelt conversation. And thank you to our executive producer, Mr. Chris Hastings, and our event manager, Evelyn Brittle, for putting all of this together this evening. Thank you so much for joining the conversation here on World Channel. Be sure to follow us on the World Channel's YouTube page, as well as all social media. We also have a World Channel newsletter. I'm Tina McDuffie. Take care.